Hi everybody, Angela here with the tutorial for La La Land Crafts. Today we're going to be making a portfolio that you can keep track of birthdays and other things in using some of the elements from the February 2020 new release. So let's get started. Okay, so for products that we're going to be using for this project, we have the La La Land Crafts Sparkle and Shine paper pack. We are going to be using the balloon die. So we've got our die with our ribbon. Okay. We're going to be using the Postage Squares die. We're going to be using the 2021 die. We're going to use the right and the left pocket die. And then we're also going to be using the double stitch squares. Okay. Okay, so now for the rest of our products, we're going to be using Birthday Present Marci rubber stamp. So I've got her stamped, cut, colored, everything with her. We're going to have a piece of chipboard that is going to measure 10 3/4 by 8. We're going to have a piece of cardstock. In this case, it's kind of a minty cardstock that coordinates with our paper. This is going to be 10 3/4 by 8 1/4. We're going to have 2 sheets of white that measure about 8 1/4 by 5 1/4, and I'll show you why I say about. Okay. We're going to have a piece of pattern that is going to measure 5 1/4 by 5 and 5 1/4 by 4. We're going to have a strip of white that is going to measure 5 1/4 by 1. And then lastly, we're going to have 2 strips, and you can really use anything you want for this, but I used pattern paper. You can use any of it that you want. They're going to be 3/4 inch by 6 inches. And let me say I have a dog snoring at my feet, so if you hear snoring or noises, that's what you're hearing. So let's go ahead and get started on our assembly. So we're going to start with our chipboard. So now we are going to score it at 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. This is what is going to give us our portfolio part. So I have gone ahead and scored it. So let me put my scoreboard aside. And let's go ahead and get this part assembled. It's kind of late here tonight, and I think my dogs are just done with the day. Okay, so there's our chipboard. Let me get my bone folder. Okay, I just want to reinforce my edges. Okay, so there we've got our portfolio part, and as you can see, we've got our part where once we are done, or no, pad will go inside. Okay. So now we are going to take our pattern paper, and again we are going to score it at, let me get a bigger scoreboard out for this part. We are going to score it at 5 1/4 and 5 1/2. So let me slide my big scoreboard back in. So now oops. Just line this up here. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and reinforce that. And this other one, we can burnish down as well. Now we've got our outside. So now we have our chipboard and we have our cardstock piece. Okay. So now, as you can see, they're going to come together. What I like to do is I am just going to put double-sided tape. You could use score tape. I think this particular roll that I'm using right here, I had gotten at Scrapbook Expo, probably the last one I went to when we could go. Now, right now everything's online with the pandemic and all, but I think it's just a roll I had gotten fairly inexpensive. So I just like to so now we will go ahead and I think besides friends, the best crafty companions to craft with are pets. I have an 11-and-a-half-year-old Pomeranian mix. He's the snorer. And then I have a 3-year-old, 3-and-a-half-year-old rat terrier. She snores a little, but it's definitely not noticeable. That's my old guy. Okay. So now a trick that I learned a while back is if you take just kind of a old school type glue stick This happens to be from the Paper Studio, I think, which is I believe it's Hobby Lobby. If you put it over your tape, your double stick tape, this will buy you a little bit of time when you put your paper down for it to allow a little bit of wiggle room. Okay. So now I've got it right side out, so the back side is inside, and we kind of just want to center it. Lay it out. There we go. So now we're just going to push out our creases, and I'm sure there are other ways that you could assemble this. This is just what works for me. Okay. So now we have the outside. So for the inside, before we put our inside together, I was thinking the last time I did one of these, I used a library type clip to keep it together like that. But I was thinking in this case that we could take some seam binding and this is just some seam binding that I had gotten in a shop on Etsy. And I debated between my pink and my mint. I could also use white, but I'm going to use my pink. And we are just going to pull that through. Now I want to have enough room to be able to tie and whatnot, so we can go ahead and lay this out. Okay. So then, okay. So, we've got that. Now for our insides, okay, we are going to again do the same thing with our tape. Because I want it to really go together securely. So and because I want it to meet up with my edges, okay. So again, get out our glue stick. now we're just going to line it up. Now I want a little bit of extra room here, hence why I don't have it coming up totally against my line, but you could make it wider and have it do that. Okay. And actually, I'll take that back. I grabbed the wrong piece. Okay. So, I wondered if I had a method to my madness there, or if it was supposed to be okay. So go back. Okay. So okay, there we go. That's better. I turned it because when I cut it, my edge over here was a little bit less, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but it was a little bit less clean. So, we'll put it to the inside. And then I always think I'll wait to film until the dog's not snoring and he just has a tendency to. I would never get filming done. And I just cannot keep him out. I've actually got them both pretty close to my feet right now. It's about 10:40 here right now. My husband's in bed. He gets up really early. He gets up about 3. So he's already made it to bed. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put this piece in. As you can see, that glue stick gives us some wiggle room. So now we have our inside and our outside, and we've got our tie. So now it's just a matter of putting together our cover. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and let's move my scoreboard. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of pattern paper. Now you can use you could use any of the patterns or anything that you wanted to mix and match. I happen to want to use the mint, pink, and white, and then the gold, along with the leopard. So let's go ahead. Put them down. So now we've got that at the top. So now we're going to do our leopard very low. And we're just going to line up. You could use your double-sided tape like you did on the inside and the cover. There we go. Now, I want to cover my seam. So, we are going to do that. So there's our seam cover. Okay. Now, I had an idea of, we're just kind of gonna go with this. Let's see. Okay. This part's just kind of a creating on the fly. The last one of these I made, I did not do my side color, but I thought it might be kind of fun. Now, because I wasn't totally sure where I wanted everything to come, uh-oh, okay. I always tease my husband that the dog snoring is a lot better than his. Okay, so there we go. Just kind of, you don't have to do this. I just kind of wanted to break up some of the patterns and use some of, a little bit more of Irina's gorgeous paper. So now, let's assemble the outside with our dies. So we've got our postage squares. Now I'm going to use some foam tape. And we'll just, now depending on what I'm doing would determine typically how many pieces I put out of this. Sometimes I will also layer my dies with my chipboard. In this case, my portfolio type item is going to be thick enough, heavy enough that I don't need to, but I do like the extra that it gives. Okay. So now I'm going to come along in here and we're just going to put that piece down. Now I've used the double stitched squares. Now you could use either side, but I kind of want to use the pink. So in this case, we will just go ahead and put that down. Okay. So now we've got Marci, and her I do want to pop up. Just cut one of these in half. If I'm doing something more intricate where I have really thin items that I want to pop up, typically I will use these strips, but in this case I just cut them in half for her legs. Okay. So she's going to go on top, but before I do that, I need to decide where I want my 2021. I'm thinking that it can go there, and then I'm thinking that, let's see, she can go there. So let's use wet glue. Okay. So I'm just going to lightly use some wet glue. This is just art glitter glue. Okay. So I'm thinking we'll put it right there. This is going to be to keep track of birthdays and other events in 2021. Okay. So then we're going to go ahead and put Marci down. I'm going to go ahead and put her, let's see, actually, since her the bottom more so of her is going to be coming off of the holder just a little, or the front. We will just go ahead and double up on our foam tape. So we've got her. So just go like that. Okay. So now I've got two of the balloons from the new release. We can just go ahead and let's see, where do I want to? Okay. You can just go ahead and put that one back there. Okay. So then we can take our little bow piece. As you can see, we've got our balloon. We've got our balloon. Okay. So now we have our outside done. Now it's time to put together how our notepad is going to hold in our portfolio. So we have the, let me grab them again, the left and the right pocket dies. So they come with the stitched part up here And then you're going to have your score lines where you're going to fold. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So now these two are going to sit here. Okay. They're going to come together and they're going to hold notepad. I'm going to cut one of my flaps off. I'm actually going to cut them both of my middle flaps, because they're going to come together like this. So, as you can see, I just have my notepad. This one happens to be from, I've gotten it on Amazon, and it's going to sit here. Okay. So, I'm going to get a slightly thinner roll of score tape. We are just going to put our tape here and here. Okay. And then we will do the same on our other piece. So we're going to put it here and here. Okay. So let's move our notepad aside. So okay. So we've got that side. And then now the easiest way for me to make sure that I have everything in the right spot is I'm going to take my notepad and I'm going to fold it all out. And of course it's somewhat sticky with my tape, obviously. So, okay. So I'm just going to lay it down like that. So now my notepad is in here. So now we're going to go ahead and remove it for a minute. Now I cut my decorative piece, because you're going to have your actual envelope or pocket, and then you're going to have the piece that goes over it that's going to be more decorative. So we can layer them out. Oops. Okay. Then we can put this piece out. So there we go. There's our pocket. We have our notepad. That is going to slide in like so. And as you can see, this is what's holding it together. Okay. And okay. So there we go. So there's, now you could use something like the happy birthday background stamp. You could stamp here, something like that. I am going to be using this for more than just birthdays. I want to keep track of other events and things that I want to send cards for. So that's why I didn't put that in there. But you could. Now I've got my seam binding. And so we're just going to tie it like that. Okay. So now you could come in with some various embellishments like enamel dots or items like that. But I absolutely love how it turned out. Again, if you don't want to use seam binding, you could use something like these library clips to hold it together. But I like the added touch with the seam binding. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know if you have any questions, any comments, anything like that. I'll talk to you later. Bye.